Do you have any preferences? Like these little things about you that you really prefer? For example, I really don't like the word can't, as in I can't do such and such a thing. I prefer to say I presently struggle with, or I'm learning how to, or I'm getting better at. I think these are much better substitutes, as opposed to saying that you straight up can't do something. My mom doesn't like the word should. She calls it a cop-out word. It's like, oh, we should have coffee someday. Okay, well, that means nothing, because it's just this hypothetical thing. It's I intend to, or let's set a date, or whatever. Even another mother of mine really doesn't like the word sure. It's like, hey, do you want me to bring you a meal? And they say, sure, as in you're doing them a favor by bringing you a meal. It's, say something like, yes, please. Well, it's because words are important. It's because actions are important, intentions are important, and perceptions are important. My name is Al Westerman. I'm the youth pastor here at Living Hope Church, and thank you for coming along as together we're going through the book of 1 Corinthians. Last week we were talking about 1 Corinthians 7, and in there Paul was posing the ideal of marriage being one man and one woman. Now, I think Paul himself believed that singleness was the best thing because you could really put everything you have into serving God. But for most of us, marriage is a really great path. Now, we also were talking about some of the non-negotiables in marriage and how religion is a non-negotiable in marriage. It's something that you need to be on the same page as your marriage partner, and I pose another one being wanting to have kids, whether you want to have kids or you don't. This is some conversation that you'd be really wise to have before you get married. Paul starts off the chapter with some of my favorite verses in 1 Corinthians. He says, now about food sacrificed to idols, we know that we all possess knowledge. Knowledge puffs up, but love builds up. The man who thinks he knows something does not know what he does not yet know as he ought to know. But the man who loves God is known by God. Now, the reason why I love these verses so much is because it so speaks to my heart. I love knowledge, and Paul's not dissing knowledge. But knowledge does have this tendency to puff us up, to make us feel like we're in some sort of a way superior. He's saying that's not the path forward. Knowledge isn't bad, but don't let it get to your head. What the path forward is love. The path forward, the way to work forward in ministry, to move closer to people, to really reach people, isn't by touching their heads, it's by touching their hearts. And they want you to touch them emotionally before you try to touch them intellectually. To really, for someone to know that you care. And so what Paul wants us to do is he wants us to address the heart of the issue. He wants us to address the heart of the person before we start going into their heads. Paul goes on in the chapter and he continues to talk about food sacrificed to idols. Now, for our context, this isn't as relevant, but it actually is extremely relevant. So what Paul is getting at here is, again, it's the heart of the issue. It's not what you know. He said, now we all know that an idol is nothing. We know that, but other people think that it's actually something. Now this takes all different forms in today. Maybe someone was an alcoholic or addicted to gambling or had some other form of an addiction or has something that they're dealing with, or they have some sort of a buzzword or a preference or whatever it might be. Even if it's something as silly as me not liking the word can't, or mom not liking the word should, or my other mom not liking the word sure. Even if it's something as silly as that, it's meeting the person where they're at and understanding their context and understanding their heart and understanding their preferences. Really, he wants us to care about the individual. He wants us to have the best interest of the individual in our hearts and are letting our actions reflect that. So once again, I appreciate your comments. I appreciate your opinions, and I would love to hear from you. So even if you just want to write what one of your little preferences is, what is a buzzword for you? What's a word that you never like to say, or that you're learning to like to say more? Thank you very much. Hope you enjoy the reading.